Hey, it's crypto time. How are you guys? How are you enjoying your Bitcoin skidding down? Yes, isn't it interesting? Suddenly the world found out that China lends irresponsibly. Suddenly the world found out that there's too much bad, overvalue, overhyped property in China. And now we must have a risk-off moment. A risk-off moment for which everything must correct, panic and sell. One of the head and shoulder scenarios we gave you last time we spoke to you was a dip and a sell-off, a dip and a sell-off. In fact, we'll be taking a look at the Bitcoin chart soon, but I might even take you round about the houses a little bit into areas you don't normally stray as crypto traders to talk about risk-off and how you can see these risk-off events are actually relevant and showing themselves in the traditional markets, and why the turning of gold and silver, pure gold link below, by the way, real diversification. Grab yourself some real shiny stuff. I like silver, but I also bought platinum recently because we called the bottom on platinum. It's good to diversify out of your crypto. Oh, look at that. Shiny things. Don't you love bright, shiny things? If I dropped that, that would smash my Wacom screen below. Real weight. Go and grab some. I think it's going to be a great turning point. I'm going to be doing a very important, by the way, you old crypto kiddies, but it's all about the great reset, guys. There's three brands. There's the reset sniper, the market, and the crypto. Crypto is one of the circles. Understand the other two to understand the one you're in. And the overlap point is the point you want. It's the sweet spot. It's the sniper sight. It catches you in everything. The great reset is trundling forward. I mentioned on Reset Sniper on the Odyssey channel, by the way. Go and grab a checkup on there. It's all under that Market Sniper. You get these Market Sniper, Crypto Snipers backed up, and you get Reset Sniper on the ride, on the move. I've got a turbocharged battery scooter. I'm going to do one from one of those. It actually does wheel spins when you're on it. I'm going to do a stream with the GoPro on my... I hated being behind all the girls on these other ones. They're lighters, and I'm a big old heavy mutt. So I got a super turbo, most powerful one. It does about 40 miles an hour on a flat. It's insane. It's an absolute hoot. Anyway, I'll go and check those out. We talk about the Great Reset coming. What am I saying to you? Central bank digital tokens are a certainty. It's already been decided. Versions of social score and who may buy what and why, and whether you're a good little Indian or a compliant little slave and serf, or will also be coming as an absolute certainty. So they're going to get you on the financial side, which is the central bank digital tokens. It's pre-planned, and they all in Britain, they're just saying, oh, it's recently, we should wonder whether we should assert on how the money is spent. They decided long ago. They're going to look like they're having a discussion and going to approve it and trial it. All the usual pantomime and Punch and Judy show, but in actual fact, they intend to control you and how you use your money as part of killing cash. That's right, cash. That thing you should not want to see the death of. That thing you should be using. That thing you should be paying people, which can still go under the radar. The criminals' currency, they will call it cash. Yes, use cash. Anyway, so those are the two things, social score. Then the third mighty thing, apart from the central bank digital currencies, is how they get your money, the social scoring, the vaccine, biometric, medical, carbon green, everything that's going to come into play. Anyway, we're not allowed to say that word too much, so we won't say it anymore. So I'm going to show you some of the risk-off things that are going on outside of crypto and what it means for us, and why I think we may not necessarily make it all the way down to the head and shoulders target that we gave you. Just because you get a head and shoulders doesn't mean it necessarily performs, but we will talk about that. So this is what happened on the S&P 500. Nice little gaps down. Oh my goodness, there's irresponsible lending in China. Who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought it? Bring it all down. Bring it all down. That's what happened. 15,000. We drew this level a long time ago, and it squeezed through it on a rising wedge, popped down, then went through it, and now it's broken down. In the longer run, I still expect this index higher. I still expect the index higher, but first we've got to be afraid. Could you get, he says, a smaller time frame head and shoulders here on the NASDAQ and you go for a further sell-off? Maybe you could do that and that. You could get a weak rally and the 15,000 or a little bit below it could be a neckline and you could pull lower. Long-term higher overall. Why? Because the proliferation is coming. Now let me show you something else that we'll be covering in more detail on Market Sniper that on the surface has nothing to do with crypto, but actually has everything to do with crypto, and that is the dollar. You're all talking about the anti-fiat. The God market of fiat is the dollar. The God market of fiat is the great dollar, he says. And I'm not sure I want to call it great, but I will show you this chart that I did a long time ago when I was in Africa. And we were telling you about my expectations for the dollar. So you're saying, hang on a minute, we're a few minutes already into the clip and you haven't said anything about a crypto. Yes, because you need to understand the environment. This is about the anti-fiats versus the fiats. That's why you see David and Goliath here. Oh, look at that biblical element. I'm getting pretty biblical nowadays. I talk about it's the last 3 years of your life. How do you want to spend it? Accelerated living. Work on that construct. You may not be far wrong. And the more you work on it, the more likely you'll be part of those that will be living beyond that. So it's kind of dark, but it's also kind of stoic. It sets a low bar and everything else comes up above it. Go have a look at it. It's under our Odyssey channel. Also, don't forget to book a call if you'd like to talk more about the Great Reset and planning. People who've instituted plans have done very well, are paying far less to the extractors. Dollar index. This is what Bitcoin's being moved on. Generally, listen to what I'm saying, because there's going to be a pivotal changing moment. Generally, dollar up is bad for Bitcoin because it's the God market of fiats. It means, the dollar is going to live forever, etc., etc. It's also bad for gold and silver. That's why you shouldn't want bad things for gold or silver either. It's an anti-fiat. It was the God market before. So the God market of anti-fiat is in fact gold, and silver is an alt in essence to gold. And in the same way, Bitcoin is that electronic version thereof. Anyway, so I had drawn this scenario around about here. It was early part of 2020, and I had only just revisited my template I hadn't used in a long time, and I love to see old macro drawings I did long time ago, and it was done around here as this was turning over. We had a big sell-off, we had this shooting star, we had wicks, and I drew this green line as my flight path of what I thought the dollar index would do over the longer term. We are on monthly. That's right, we will be doing much more FX. I've got some big FX calls that we're going to be making through the Market Sniper, which will be very interesting. And it's going to play hard on this theme of coming further dollar strength. Many people are not calling this. You'll get the likes of Peter Schiff, who's a perpetual dollar to zero. To zero against what? Against the euro? Against the yen? No, I don't think so. In actual fact, I see it going up. The key moment, as I've said many times before, and I actually think Brent Johnson, who we've had as a guest on this channel before, not once but twice, go and see, was not inaccurate in terms of what he sees happening. Maybe out on timing, as you would always be if you're not a macro technical analyst, but I felt his time would come. And what are we talking about here? We're talking about this structure in here. And we'll be tying how this ties to Bitcoin, because it's going to be important. It's going to be important. What will happen? Can we get to that flippening moment where dollar is actually getting strong against everything else? Remember, the dollar index is measured against the euro, the Swiss franc, the British pound. There's a little bit of yen in there, but it's quite euro heavy. I am calling for major bear news coming out of Euroland. And that there's going to be a bit of flight to dollar. It can also be bear news for the Asian nation currencies as well, such as the yuan. Remember the Korean won? We were talking a lot about that, and it went off the boil. It's extended slightly. Those things will all come back on. Those things will all potentially come back on. And who will be the beneficiary in the fiat realm? The dollar, which would see, this was the scenario cost. We expected a down leg. and then a little calming period, an up leg up into here, a little bit of a calming period, and then a break point, and wait for it, 111.75 to be run on the dollar index, possibly even getting to the hard ceiling with a bit of overperformance of 120, not seen before since 2001, 2002, dot-com boom, everything American, everything internet, it's all happening in San Francisco, the blue state where they now shoot you for not being compliant. Anyway, so that is a big call for the dollar. Now, on terms of that, hold on a minute, on the surface, that's not so great for the crypto game, unless he says we get a key flipping and that the crisis is so large in the Asian and European nations, and it will be the emerging that they turn it down. Why would this happen? Because everything is about inflation and how silly the Fed looks right now. How does that change? Well, they start talking a taper game. They maybe even think about it. They do a few motions about it, or major crisis globally occurs, kind of like the Evergrande, and it gains greater traction, and the European banks come into play in all of this, and everyone gets scared and rushes like 2008 into the dollar. And suddenly they get to shore up their debt because everybody buys debt. Remember, we're very concerned for the strength of that. They need people to be investors and hiders in the dollar as what the greatest military, the biggest military so far, even though they lose all their battles. They're not trying to win. They're just trying to blow a big hole in your budget. But we know that that's a separate story. So what's happening is we're going to go into an environment in my worldview where the dollar will reinflate slightly against the European, British, and the Eastern currencies, and will be relatively strong. And a move to 118 is actually a long way away from its current levels in and around 93. That is huge. It doesn't, for crypto kitties, it's going to be a difficult. That's not huge. It's massive. It's massive. The last time you were that high was a long time ago. If we were to make 118, it literally would be 20 years ago that the dollar index was last there. And during this period, the amount of debt that was added, this was the game of quantitative easing, where you just scaled up. You got your hand fuller of cookies in that jar, that extracting it out of the neck of the jar is almost impossible. So this is a serious potential move. And this has bearings for precious metals. It has bearing and effect on crypto as well. So if that is the macro environment of a firming dollar, could we lose? Don't forget the first cup gold nugget break occurred on Bitcoin during this phase, a collapsing dollar. Lots of printing, lots of selling off. That's what happened during that period. And that's why we had a run from 9K, shring to 65K. Since that low in the beginning of the year, no doubt got more challenging. By April, the Bitcoin had hit the 64,000. And since then, with this no longer going down, the momentum started to ebb a little bit. So let's go to those crypto charts. Gave you a little bit of an education, kept you out of your space of comfort to show you a macro chart. And you will be seeing this on the Market Sniper when we build our scenarios. In fact, we'll be making a major call for a Euro-Swiss franc collapse coming. A Euro-Swiss franc collapse, which means there will be specific Euro-based issues. And you've got ton of, just like they're reheating the China property thing, they've got the Euro banking thing. They've just kept the spotlight off it. They can just swing the light back on that. It's all still a mess. Nothing gets fixed in this world. It's all masking tape over the cracks and the craps. So you know how the story goes. The focus will just pivot, and there will be, in our opinion, a major fall through the Euro Swiss franc through the one level right the way down through 70 cents. That's right. So the Swiss franc is going to get unnaturally strong. They're going to want to intervene, etc., etc. Let's pivot to the cryptos and put that same time frame into context. Let's pivot to the cryptos and put that same time frame into context. We'll leave it on the big time frames so that you see the similar. So the key point where you got your real turbocharge, which is why you trade the macro HVFs and you bias bull during this period, the dollar was in its topping out and selling off. What did we do? Swing up there. So we had the extra wind in our sails for Bitcoin that took you from the low 9,000s all the way up to 64. What's happening now? Well, if the dollar starts moving up, can we get an environment where some of that foreigner money, instead of all just institutionally chasing into the dollar, a little bit more of that is starting to get hived into Bitcoin and gold when we get the key reset day and moment? I've told you many times on the Market Sniper particularly, but also a little bit on the Crypto Sniper. You would have heard it more on the Market Sniper, where you understand the 360-degree analysis of traditional markets, that the day of reset is here when you have an ascending dollar. You are close to the door. The chariots of fire are coming. The fourth rider of the apocalypse has arrived. Yes, the omen, the crow has squawked, the owl has called your name, my friends. That is when the financial reset is in full flow. And that'll be when the gold is absolutely going up really strong. The silver's going up real strong. We've called an all-time low on platinum and it's turned as well. All these things are happening, and this is 360-degree analysis of the macro world of anti-fiats, for which crypto is part, but not the sole place. And that moment will be on dollar strength, not on dollar weakness. All the people that are $0 callers on how flawed it is don't understand that it's the other nation's second currency, and you will face shortages as deflation and loans collapse. That is what will happen. So we watch over here about Bitcoin. Can we get to the moment where Bitcoin actually is also getting some of those flows? Crypto is also getting some of those flows. Gold and silver are getting those flows, and you get a rush for anti-fiats on a strengthening dollar. That is the omen and the beginning of the end. And you will also see it in the likes of oil, commodities. In short, its inflation is here. What will happen if the dollar gets stronger is they will save a little bit of the Fed's egg all over its face, and it is literally a scrambled egg face, the whole thing, because this whole transitory, they've been so put to goddamn bed with their absolute lies, creating 6 trillion, putting 25% of the new currency created in a single year of all currency ever created in history of America. Doing 25 is utterly inflationary, especially if you're going to give it it's inflationary regardless, but especially if some of it is getting to the peasants who are buying goods, items, pushing up prices of second-hand cars. Property market is going up 25%. BlackRock and all the chosen ones, corporations, are all gobbling up all the assets like property, competing with retail buyers as they dump their worthless fiat into assets. The big game is that inflation is taxation. Say it after me. Inflation is taxation on you, and it is exceptionally harsh taxation on those that have no balance sheet, no assets, and just live on income, because their earnings are not moving up fast enough in comparison to the inflation. The cost of living is going high, and they have no assets that are going up in value and holding their value. The billionaire class don't care about the price of milk and a loaf of bread. They have borrowed money on the cheap with very low interest rates to buy assets that are going up faster at the rate of inflation. In much the same way, all the best spots, you've got an aggregate increase in property of 25%. Some places that are well sought after will have gone up more. Some would have stood still in America, because you increase the circulation of money by the same amount. It's really not that difficult. It's a taxation on the poor and the middle class that get dragged up into the marginal tax rates. So this is the macroeconomics of crypto that you need to understand. It isn't all about Bitcoin, Ethereum, platform this, platform that. What is the macro category going to do? Are we facing that moment of flippening? So there was your tailwind. Now we have the dollar in an environment where it may be getting stronger. Can they go up and get some of the fear and panic money? Will the precious metals and the crypto market start to get some of the fear money? And here is the coming of my answer. My answer says, yes, I feel they will. And in actual fact, the amount that they need to get to go up disproportionately faster than the dollar, so that they go up even in dollar terms, is less. Much less money is needed to do it than the money that is required to flow into dollar funds. So you've had comments like Erdogan talking negatively about Bitcoin. Why would he do that? Because scared Turks are not just buying gold and silver. They're not just rushing into dollars. They've decided to bypass the dollar and go into crypto. Plus, you have the likes of Salvador, other nations, Panama, and soon you will have the likes of the Argentinian peso, and Argentina start looking at Bitcoin and other things. Suddenly, you start to get a lot more money flowing into the crypto space than just the dollar space. Crypto, gold, silver go up in dollar terms in an increasing dollar environment. Anybody living in the Eurozone, the yen zone, the yuan zone, the Australian dollar and the Canadian dollar zone all start to have crippling inflation. The Fed passes the inflation from their nation state, increases the strength of their currency, which ceases the inflation, because now they're buying more oil with their stronger dollar, and they pass all the inflation now onto whoever is collapsing at that time, the rest of the world, from the east to particularly Euroland, which will be plummeting against the Swiss franc, which will be a small little island of prosperity in a euro shitstorm. Okay, so let's have a little look, a little more at this. What do we expect is happening? We expect this. We expect this is compression. In other words, my overall view is you will not run that level. Can we be wrong on that? We can be wrong on absolutely everything and anything at any time. I'm just saying on balance of probabilities. That is not going to happen. In short, we are in an easing leg from our secondary high here, and we're looking for our secondary low, and it could already be in, but it might go a little lower. So I gave you last time a bear scenario, not just a bull scenario when we were up top here. I said that slap in the face that you got on the 7th of September, the 7th of September stack, where you had a deep push down and a lack of bid stack at that level, was highly, highly concerning. And that any rallies, which we traded on the rebound, that there would be some initial reflation, and we took money up to the 47.5, had you buying at 44 up to the 47.5, thereafter started to get a bit ropey. We'll drop the time frame to show you that. Illustrates that there was weakness and further weakness to come. The narrative is this Evergrande story. I don't know if it's Grande or Evergrande. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce all these failing entities. But nonetheless, I think you know what I mean. We did warn about this particular head and shoulder that was coming into view. Let's just see if I've got it. Let's put it on that one, actually. Let's go to this one. This is going to be a busy with lines chart. A real chartist has loads of messy charts. Real chartists have messy charts. So this is kind of where we've been. Let's take it off for a while so you can just see it. And this is where we are now. Typically in selling, you tend to get 3 wave sells, 3 strikes of selling. So that points to a potential third downside, Now, we did give you this head and shoulder, and we gave you the key level for it, which was the number that no one else speaks about, 47.5, roughly around there. And you would have had that as your left shoulder. You know all this by now. You had your rising wedge head. And then you came down and you made your secondary armpit, as we call it, which is there and there, the first and second, and you went up for your right shoulder. And then you had again wedging in there. That head and shoulder performed to target, which saw it run at 29,000. And then you had a lot of pressure for the 5th wave, because that was your first wave of selling. That was your second wave, which had a 61.8 extension perfectly in it that complied with the target. We told you, we gave you that. I've got no time to revisit all the old history in real detail. You then had the attempts at follow-through selling that slowly dissipated. First, you wound up. That was worrying. We were concerned for the bear side there. It invalidated. We were back into the accumulate camp, and so it fizzled with its selling. That was a great buy signal that we took on the falling wedge, which was the compression of volatility. You see, we are volatility traders. We focus on the key element, not a MACD, not a moving average. We don't walk around the house with varying lengths, bungee cords and bricks dragging from room to room. It's not our game. We're not interested in bouncing off the brick into the swimming pool and saying, isn't that incredible? The moving average just bounced me. We don't do nonsense. We debunk utter mathematical price lagging formulas that are likely to ever be clairvoyant about future price behavior, and we focus on the key element. The compression of the volatility set up that move, and we pointed that you were rounding over here, and this brings us up to current. You were rounding up to here, and you were going into this, and you had a final flat bottom. Then we gave the 51,790 be all out by the time of 52, and then you got your September attack. As we pointed out, most others, as that was happening, I mentioned 2 YouTube channels. There were many others all saying this is breakout, this beautiful chart Bitcoin. This was at the 61.8. So we've recapped all of that. So what now? There can be a third wave potentially of selling, and there is that head and shoulder we warned you of in the bear scenario. So let's take a closer look at this localized high that we have in this environment where the dollar might be stirring. And as I suggested, the dollar strength is going to shock some people. You're going to have people talking about the USD ruble, all the FX traders, the Turkish lira again is going to come under review. There's going to be pain around for emerging nations. There will be pain around for the emerging nations. So into the 4-hourly time frame, we grab the localized high and we have a little look at this. So the point we did make not so long ago after the September crackdown, was again your 47.5 was super significant. We showed it to you over here. That was it over there. That was your target of this HVF up top here. You got made there roughly, and then you had a final push high. Then the attack came, boom, first wave, slap in the face. It's a slap in the face. It's sudden, it's violent, and it catches the buying stack looking a little bit underprepared and weak. So we were hammering out a short-term low into that squeeze. We got long at the 44 and sold back out the 47.5. That was the method. Why? Because you have a real next fear event likely to happen. So that was the biasing to bull, but in a counter trend situation on the medium time frame of 4, which suggested there was more to come. You actually got a very big left shoulder, a slightly higher head, and a very rushed right shoulder in there for a sell-off head and shoulder as well that came in and has spilled and overperformed. But we are now seeing big wicks, big buying the dip wicks. So is it likely that we will make a new low? I'm not so sure. I think we're going to have rally, churn around, and have a soft final sell attempt. A bit like the falling wedge that was on the daily chart where it fizzled, it made the 29 one more time. Everyone was just capitulating into bearishness, and you got the spike out of the falling wedge to the moon. You bought your 1750 Ethereum and you rode it all the way up to 3,800. Now back sub the 3K. So that's kind of where we're at. We are awaiting a possible third wave, but for me there is clear evidence here that there is buying. Whenever you get extended high volatility wicks like this, it means there are dip buyers, there are value buyers. These are the people that are not trading the current momentum, that have the eye on the great reset and the failure, and not trading to the level and recognize this as being potentially cheap. Overall, it's our view, you will not run that low, that this is a secondary high, RH2. You could have already have made your RL2 low. You may get a rising wedge for a bit up to here, kind of walking, and another stab down and failure to make a new low. And that will be your 1 selling wave, 2 selling wave, and third. That can be absolutely the case. By the way, this selling wave, not significantly bigger than this one. It is not a 61.8. like it was on the big head and shoulders following the 64 high. So what is that telling us? It also saying the next selling leg likely to be less large. There is a dissipation. You're also getting marginally lower lows there and there. You could be talking, and it's a just run of the 40K. I said in the community, the only thing I'm not happy about is we didn't run the 40K. Why? Because we have all our round numbers and logical points in the charts. If I show you it again, you will see there was a big 44 there, and there was a 40K at this juncture when we had this huge hammer. And I felt, one more rollover, let's just see if we can't run the 40K. I have a feeling that that was empirical. Key levels of significance, just run. I have a feeling that that could be foundational, that this could indeed be the base, and that that fifth selling will be weak and inside the range after some recovery and not make a new low. Possibly at the 44. This magic level is the neckline for this possible head and shoulder, which I'm not sure is actually going to perform. Just because you get a head and shoulder doesn't mean it actually performs. And in this environment, I say it exists. It may happen, which would certainly give you a lower low. That was the one that we had mentioned that would get you down to around the 35,000s, get you into a number of 35,000, that being the head. You had an extended period of transition here, and that being your right shoulder. Also, this right shoulder went a little higher than that left one. It's not bad. It's not great for us. Generally, we like smaller right shoulders where there's a clear sign of weakness. So overall, the quality of this head and shoulder is adequate. If you had shorted late, instead of taking it at the 47.5, and this little, on this little micro head and shoulder, you would have made some money if you closed at 44. If you're waiting for 35, you might not get filled. So can it happen? It can. That would mean we have a slightly bigger dip. It's not my main scenario. I think, like with the other head and shoulders, where there was still a fifth wave accepted, you only made the target. You didn't overperform. You had one sell-off. You had the 1.618 sell-off that took you to 29K, and then you got no more down, no more down, no more down. There's some people with a bigger picture that know what's coming, and you should trust them, not the people that trade the panic of the moment that are bearish. Sentiment suddenly falls. Where's sentiment? Everybody crapping the bed. Oh, so upset, so tired, so scared. Typical crypto kiddies. Oh, they're at extreme fear. Not quite. 25 is extreme fear. They're at 27. Give it a second. Give it one or two more candles selling off, and we'll be in extreme fear. And they're, of course, trading the momentum of the moment. The momentum of the moment, instead of recognizing the structure of this is probably a wind-up HVF. You quite likely made your relative low 2 at this point over here. And if you haven't, you'll maybe meet it again on a double bottom and marginally lower low, if that. You could, as an outlier, make a 35-1, and that would be the performance of this. That would take us quite flat to the 29. The 29 is just here and a little lower. That was the target of the bigger head and shoulders. So you can't rule it out. You can't rule it out, but there seems to be buying. It would need a second wave of fear from the whole Evergrande thing. It would need that NASDAQ that I showed you to do a head and shoulders and have its second wave of fall off. So they need to milk the drama of, oh my God, China's hopelessly over indebted. How the hell does one company, apparently I saw a number of 1.95 trillion. I couldn't believe that. That's just a tweet, so source is questionable. But how do you have a 1.95 trillion hole in your budget? I saw 200 billions here, there. The numbers were insane. How do you get to borrow that much? Guys want communism. They want to end capitalism. That's what you get in communism. You get a bunch of governmental freaks with their pet project and their pet corporation that is as associated with government and everything else, doing utterly dumb stuff. Everything government touches turns to crap. Understand that. Because there is no consequence of failure. It's all just bailouts for buddies. And that's why you shouldn't be that excited about your UBI check and how you're allowed to spend it and money for nothing and your chicks for free. It ain't going to be like that. I can tell you that. You should be pushing back against all of this. And they will come with the poisoned gifts of UBI. And you should be saying, we don't want this system. We don't want to be told what we want to pay for. We don't want you introducing that thin edge of that wedge on our lifestyle. I will spend cash on whatever I goddamn please. And I will do no harm to my fellow man, and you will do no harm or interference with me. And that should be the game. But who knows, people will get seduced, and the big paid off politician and prostitutes of society will sell you down the river, as I'm sure they will. And that's why you need to prepare. You need community. You need preparation. We have links below. Contact us on Support of the Market Sniper. And not what you make, it's what you keep. Don't forget and book a call as well to build your wealth during these periods. Wealth matters. I fly business class and I will go jet class. Why? Because I can afford it. Why? Because I traded the crypto market right and I looked at what's in front of me and said something's wrong and decided to make money. Unfortunately, the filthy lucre will buy you some freedom, some style of existence in a slave planet. So let's carry on with the Bitcoin. A possible third. So what actually are we saying? A possible third, not my highest probability. Clear signs of slowing at this sense. So you would need a second roll of events for these wicks to be overcome. Failing that, these look like flaws. Floor basing out. We'll see what comes out of this. 44 remains a key level. What happens there if you were to dip down? Possibly a double bottom or a higher low. We need the higher low or the equal low for either a double bottom or Dow theory making higher highs, higher lows. So that will probably come. There will still be another selling event. You don't have to FOMO buy into all of this. That was your slap in the face that ends. That is our RH2 on what we are calling a big slingshot surge wind up for crypto bullishness that could go up in spite of dollar upness. And if you're not living in America, it will go double up because your currency is going to be slipping against the dollar at the same time. So Bitcoin Euro charts, Bitcoin Yen and Korean Won charts could absolutely be flying. Bitcoin Rand and Turkish Lira and Brazilian Real charts. Oh my God, how the shit could fly when we get to those gorgeous fiats and their great meltdown. So that is a large part of what we do. Let's have a look at the comments. Does everyone understand what we're saying? Let's take the eye off there and show you what we're talking about. Lane Bulger, Francis called it. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. Let's be mature here. Indeed, indeed. Decorum, gentlemen, please, please, please. Salute. Okay, so I'm diverse enough at the moment, says somebody. Take your meds, says somebody else. My God, the quality of comments is getting good here. Who wants to talk about what we're discussing here? Anybody? Or are we just fighting? Are we just fighting? Tell me when someone mentions Adolf Hitler. Then I know we've made the basement low. So yes, we will see a new all-time high, says Dan. So Dan says, do you think? So either through here, and this is your low for that, and that is your subsequent high. Either that serves as it, or we trade a little lower for which you have the 35K mark would be the final outcome of the head and shoulder. That 35 run would give you a slightly flatter bottom. That's why I've drawn it like this. This as a low would give you like that. So there is scope for that third strike that can take you into a new low. It depends how much we rally, how fast it is, to how deep it will come. If we go up enough, it may not even force a new low. It will just square us out for a while. So we'll hang ball. We'll go a little bit up, then a little bit down, and then base out some more. If it comes quickly, we could make the new low. If it comes promptly and quickly. So we'll have to see. Fed is talking today. The Chief Satan talks today. So you can hear what he'll do. Maybe they will talk up already the taper and the dollar being strong and all of this to try bring down the pressure that they have faced for being absolute liars about transitory inflation, which we of course always said lies, 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 damn lies. They're professional liars. They're professional deception artists. They're designed to mislead you. It's what they'll continue to do. They're signaling to markets in coded language that often you won't understand. Don't ever think these people work for you. They're a private entity that actually manages the control of money for a cartel of secret societies that all want to be elites and leaders and have an easy, high-value life with lots of money and slaves maintaining it for them. And that's where you're at. So as long as you have no doubts about where you are and what the world is like. By the way, there's been some good performances. Hex has held up well for the Hexicans. I'll just give them a shout. They love that. And some people hate it. It stayed in the 40s during that period. Certain alts will do very, very well. We are discussing in our community, and this is a project, and we have time because the selling wave is not over, but we don't have forever. It could already be the bottom, but there might be another strike, as we say. So we are already thinking next stage. Don't trade what the market is doing today. Down, fear. Sell, short. It's already getting late in the levels. You might get a 35 if you're lucky run. You want to position for the next clear, lengthy cycle. I will say to you, if it comes down, even if it did come down to around about 35, I would position for that move up. I think you would go back up to the 47.5, which from 35 is quite strong. You'll probably run through the 47.5, have a little bit of a pullback, and then you'll be getting the next big move. I'm always more comfortable grabbing the selling off lows, waiting for them, getting roundabout close and early in the up moves and being net long. I will go net long through the third impulse. Can change color from my fecal matter brown. I have my own portfolio of colors. Little boy Pippi blue and fecal brown and TG pink. So we'll do that and that. So I would be positioning right now. You've got to be 1 or 2 moves ahead of the rest of the market. They're all in fear. You should be getting ready to buy. You're going to doing buying cheap. We are, as I say, assessing which of the alts we will be accumulating because Bitcoin will lead. But the alts will take over, and this is going to be an outperformance zone. By the way, round about this structure will take you into the mid-80s, low to mid-80s, 83 to 85K. So everyone's shouting 100. I think the thing that it'll do, if you remember the previous highs, it ran up almost to the previous high and stopped. It took 2 weeks before it took the previous high. Everyone was like, Bitcoin new all-time high, it's coming. And then the next day, it's coming today, it's coming today, it's coming today, 14 days in a row. And it didn't happen. So going up to mid-80s, low to mid-80s, 83, 85, could mean with a little bit of overshoot, it even gets 87, 89, maybe even a low 90 in a bit of a blow-off move. Everyone starts assuming the 100, starts chasing in so that they can say, I was long during the 100. You know, all the ego stuff is always the wrong stuff. And what you end up doing is you have a reasonable reaction down at that point. What you have to think about is which of the alts in percentage terms, if Bitcoin trades 42 as it is now, or maybe makes 35 and goes then later up to 85, you're probably getting close to 2.5x. What will some of those better alts be doing in that environment? And that's where we're doing our study. I can't discuss what we've decided. That's for our premium guys. We're still doing our study. We already have some front runners. You want to know more about that? You want to be part of crowdsourcing that? You want to look at the pairs across Bitcoin, across Ethereum, and who they might be? We already have some in structures that are similar to what we're discussing in Bitcoin. Then you can click the link and find out why we are interested in them, why they are relatively strong, and you can start putting in your limit orders if we get that final sell where they should be. And we'll take them up a little bit, but again, only entering on limit orders if Bitcoin doesn't go a third leg off. So let's see what other questions we are. Someone likes Phantom, FTM, good for you. The alt markets, so I'll just look at the totals. I'm not going to get into the details of specific alts because, as I say, we're doing that work right now and we're positioning and we haven't completed it. I will show you this for a little bit of fun. So that was an inverted breakdown. It's incomplete for its target make. This is total 3. That excludes Bitcoin and Ethereum. It was a good inverted structure. There can still be a third sell level for that to be made. Doesn't mean it has to be made, but inverteds often perform. Usually have quite high. So as I warned, there's a possible third selling. Total 2, which many of you are more used to seeing, which includes Ethereum. Again, could be in a channel. And again, I still say there could be 3 strikes. There's a big 1 trillion number here that might get visited one more time. Just run. Big key level. This includes the value of all alts, which includes Ethereum. It's total 2. So smackdown, over, smackdown, up and over, and possibly a 1 trillion run, which again has me think we're not necessarily done. We might go lower, but my bias is picking lows, waiting for this. This would be a massive entry long for me. If we revisit and do a spike down through the 1 trillion, I'll wait it, I'll watch it. As soon as I see it coming back with some twitchiness and some volatility, in, and I will trigger all my favorite alts that we have researched and done. By that page, we'll be ready for it, and we'll be net long those. And we'll be sitting and we'll wait for Bitcoin 85, 83K, and we'll be running it. If that Bitcoin does a 2.5x, you'll be having Christmas. I tell you, you'll be having Christmas with all the, you'll be having a great Christmas. I was going to say something I daren't say, but yeah. So there is something. Will the alts do as well as Bitcoin? Will it be Bitcoin driven? There's a question there from Cotton Coin Joe. And he raises a good point in that there is a bit of a Bitcoin dominance chart that probably needs a little bit of respecting. I've got it up here, market cap. I've got 2 draws of Bitcoin dominance that I'm looking at. And if you look at this, you may get, because it will be, so remember, fiat currencies, this is why I did the big splurge about 360-degree analysis. You took 15 minutes before you even saw a crypto chart with me. You got the whole rhyme and verse about emerging market currencies and a number of other things. And I was explaining why I think that you should be aware of all of these things. What are the big institutions and governments going to chase into? Did Salvador buy Ethereum? Did they buy a portfolio of micro-cap shitcoins? Or did they go Bitcoin? Remember, liquidity. Big governments, institutions chase liquidity. Liquidity is Bitcoin, none of the others. Not none of the others, to varying degrees the others. Ethereum next, etc., but they chase liquidity, brand name. They are not risk. They're not going to be taking a punt on Cello that I was doing, or they won't be buying, unfortunately, Hex, I'm afraid. You know, they're not going to be, they're going to go for the big one. They're going to go for the big one there. So we do have a bit of a channel here, a little bit skittish at the 42.5% there. Bitcoin dominance, and we're back there now. Do we this little bit of skittishness, does it roll over one more time? But then do we get a Bitcoin dominance run? I will trade Bitcoin long on the reflation if I think it's going to the 83, 85 out of this bottoming. So we are preparing. This is the slingshot. This is a bull trap. All those that were talking about bear trap. This selling off is a bull trap for 85 run. If you shorted into this, if you shorted at 35,000, man, I would be sorry for you. This is the place where you should be playing the next cycle. Don't play what's happening, play the next cycle move. The next cycle move is presumptuous on my behalf. It's macro bull, but I would say Bitcoin will benefit from a currency crisis more than mid-cap cryptos. The alts could languish and Bitcoin dominance could go back up to 48, 50%. Quite feasibly. So I will also trade, I will be in Bitcoin because it could lead to a fresh cycle where Bitcoin is the runner. Remember, government and institutions, what will they buy? In pressure. bankrupt corporations in China, etc., etc. You're trading with these guys. What treasury will you do? Are you going to do Hex, Cello, and microcaps portfolio? Are you going to do mid caps to large caps, Ethereum, ADA, or are you going Bitcoin for liquidity? Bitcoin for liquidity is the answer. So on that draw, there's a clear-cut scenario for Bitcoin to be in and around the 41s and then go quite substantially. This is only a 4-hour chart. It could retrace quite a bit. Remember, if Bitcoin's to get through 100,000, as everyone says it will before the end of the year, which I don't know. I think it could tease everyone a little bit. It could do it. I don't have a strong view. I have a view up to 83, 85 with a bit of overperformance. That doesn't mean you run 100. But if it were to, and the dollar continues its strength and Bitcoin continues being an alternative option to the dollar as being sought by certain countries, particularly the small Latin countries and some of maybe the Eastern Europeans, some of them will start thinking about it, then the contagion will spread. Bitcoin could then be the real runner because it's the asset. It's the electronic gold. It can be the one that people hold. It's the one that is highly liquid. In other words, you could have a Bitcoin dominance surge, which we haven't had in a long, long time. So I would trade Bitcoin and be quite happy with a 2.5x. Note, we've come down from the last bull market. You saw that. Nobody, when it was down at 35, saw it going to 72. Nobody was saying, hey, Bitcoin dominance 35, doubler. Nobody said that. You didn't hear it. This is an absolute thriller and a spiller as well of its own accord, being very, very single-minded. But it's quite easy for this to go like this. A little wind up, and then as our dollar comes, for this to go back to 61. And everyone just wants the store of value, man. If you're a government, you want store of value. You don't want to be holding Argentinian pesos and doing trade with the Turkish lira and the Chinese yuan. You don't trust any fiats anymore. Even the dollar. You just realize the dollar's the last to fall, so you'll have some of it, and you'll try find something else that represents the new world order system that they are bringing to you. That's right. I've dropped so many danger words into this YouTube. You guys are going to have to share it. With the amount of things I've said, it's just going to get filtered like anything. But what else? You can't talk truth and get out in these platforms of deception, which is why, by the way, we ask for library tokens to be paid very small amounts, buy library tokens and support the likes of Odyssey, real decentralized. BitChute is already starting to have people being removed for various things. You can keep running on these centralized ones. They're paid. Walls will be attacked for not taking down videos. Decentralize is it. We are using Odyssey. Go there. You're giving a little bit to them to run their game. And that gives us an alternative to that platform so that we can eventually stream where I don't have to worry about what danger words I'm dropping. Everyone can still watching it. So that is a key thing. No one sees dominance going up on Bitcoin. No one sees gold going up on strong dollar. No one sees dollar being strong. I'm here giving it to you. The thing that no one's seeing. Dollar to get stronger. Yes. Euro to collapse. Eastern currencies to come under great, great pressure. Euro to collapse under Swiss franc on a run of parity. You're learning FX trading at the same time as you're learning crypto trading. What do you think that's going to mean? Can the crypto realm now getting some of the safety play, the flight to safety, with governments and institutions needing it, possibly a Bitcoin dominance push before it comes back down. Long term, the applications, your prisoner apps that will be putting your property on the blockchain and forcing you out of it with fiat because you undervalued it and didn't pay enough tax. Your biometric ID, all that stuff's coming. You can buy those alts, make that money, and watch them slowly imprison you in time. But at least you'll be relatively wealthy. Big piece of land, pay your tax for 10 years in advance, armed to the teeth, and plenty of space, and growing your own food. So hopefully some of you are thinking about that. What questions? Do you consider BTC miner stocks as a good play going forward? I don't like it. I've stayed out of the mining, full stop. I've just generally stayed out of the mining. They're not an investment pot for Bitcoin. They sell it all off. So they generate it and get it back out. Some of them will hold some of it. I don't think, if you want crypto exposure, have the crypto. It's kind of like that. It's not quite like gold and silver miners, where they have it in the ground and they own the land. Miners can just be told they can't operate anymore in China. Massive hit to move your whole operation. There's regulatory issues, all of this. It's just too much downside. I did read Michael Douglas's Trading in the Zone. I think my book, if I ever finish it, will be more useful, although it was a great book and he's passed and I have nothing bad to say about him. But once you'd read the first third and a half, you got the whole sense of the book. But he doesn't introduce a method. He doesn't show people how to do it. He says you've got to have a method and you've got to stick to your method. But there is no method that he introduces. He tells you what you should have without actually bringing it. As an HVF method trader, I have a procedure. I have a process. I know what the market tells me. And I am thinking one cycle ahead. In other words, while everyone else is in bear pain, we're already thinking, where are we getting long? Because the macro is a bull. The macro is a bull. And in fact, Bitcoin should be a large part of that, and everyone will be chasing into alts. You'll have the liquidity. You'll have governments and countries buying your Bitcoin off you much higher up. As other world emerging fiats fail under dollar strength, as the oil in rands becomes too expensive, as the natural gas in Turkish lira becomes too expensive, as food in euros suddenly starts going, and Euroland now starts to have the inflation that America no longer wants to look stupid about having, because they printed all the money and they now pass the ugly stick for Euroland to beat their face up with. So inflation will be passed because it's a global village. The one who makes his currency strong then forces the other into an inflationary field. But euro will be able to export at new lower values. We'll get economic growth. The corporations will do great. The small person will be squeezed. They will not get by. Their food bill will go up. It's time for you to have assets and cheap debt or no debt at all. That is the game, guys. That's what the billionaire class has done. Can I read the book to you? Yeah, we can when it's done. Why will the countries buy BTC? All South American third world. Well, they have the most reason to, because their currencies are not trusted or believed. And in actual fact, those that make that decision will actually shore up their balance sheet, are probably doing their citizens a massive sense of good, and will stay elected and stay in power for making positive decisions. I have a book recommended reading list that I tweet out on Twitter, and it can be updated. I've threatened a book review, but we just have so little extra time just to do qualitative reviews and streams, and I don't have all the books with me because I've moved around the world and I've got stashes of books that I haven't read in a long time in one place. I've got more current ones with me, etc. So it's kind of tough. And now I'm listening to books because my eyes don't work as good as they used to. And the screens are cocking them up. Psychology, trading, or reset, says Arrow. Yeah, there is more to come there. I will think about it.
Are you looking at altcoins today?
No, we're just looking at the totals. We're not going to drop down into individual ones. I will show you Ethereum because it's big. So we'll drop down into Ethereum. Remember, jump on the link below as shared in the comments, themarketsniper.com. Every comment that will be on this YouTube after the stream is done is likely a spam comment. If it has a WhatsApp group, a phone number with lots of cranky characters to get around a filter. This is someone who wants to steal from you and is using my image to steal from you, and YouTube doesn't give a continental about crushing it. And is quite happy for you to lose money to absolute scammers. So please bear in mind, it's a tragedy if that happens to people who are following this channel. You only interact with us to engage us in a sense that could lead to a financial event for getting services through our website, 3Ws, themarketsniper.com. The same as the channel on Odyssey, which has all the Crypto Sniper, all the Market Sniper, and all the Reset Sniper on it. Support them just on the Reset Sniper with token amounts, less than $3 or $4 to watch a Reset Sniper video. All the backups are free otherwise. Go to the Odyssey channel and subscribe. Start watching material there. that isn't captured blocked. YouTube is using algorithms and is manipulating you. We like the shares and they hit the likes. We absolutely do that. Let's switch and show you Ethereum, and then I'm going to finish. So, teensy little look. There you go. By the way, for the Hexicans will be happy. They're a cult. I like to keep them happy. And it's done very, very well. Macro chart, not half bad. Not half bad. Designed for what it did. And it's in, since this HVF, it's still in overperformance, and I'm still net long and staked. So that's quite special. There, since that's HVF, still in its overperformance, still squeezing higher. Okay, that will keep them happy. Let's show you Ethereum. So the key point I made on Ethereum, also, look how high Ethereum is up here. It feels still like there is another sell-off for it, but it will be a very good structure when it's done. This was a very strong RH2, very close to the previous high. Remember how we said that the YouTubers that were pumping you all into crypto at the 6th of September in time for the smackdown failed to notice that on Total 2 and on Total, you were close to making new all-time highs. After breaking from so deep, it's exceedingly rare with one little rest there and pumping so hard to go straight into running the new high. It's just not technical analysis. You first wind up close to it and then you smash through it with momentum. And this was a very exhaustive marathon. You've run an entire marathon. You don't then run 100 meters in under 10 seconds to take out the tape, which is the previous high. It's absolutely natural that you pull back and wind. You've had one sell. You've got kind of a rising wedge there, and you've got another sell. You've got to expect there's still scope for a weaker and third sell, and this would be an amazing structure. This will be an amazing structure. You had up top there, 4,300. Again, you saw this. This was 1770, what? Let's get a number. It's even lower than that. 4,300. ETH, you had 1692s. All supporting, by the way, on an HVF funnel on the way up. Look at that. Support, 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 support. That is your layer of rock. It still can be broken, but not easily. That comes in. So a little dip, a little lower. I do feel that would be quite healthy and give you an amazing structure. You would have 4,300 to 1,700. You're going to have the better part of $2,600 projection to the upside from somewhere around here, from around $3,000, I would guess. It could see you going 5.5, bit of overperformance almost surely. You could be going 6-7 grand, but you'd be getting to the 5 grand Ethereum when that comes. So again, you should be thinking about ETH, and I would have a bit of ETH as well. So I'm talking Bitcoin dominance in the beginning. I'd have some Bitcoin and I'd have some ETH. Those are not the exciting, fresh, new faces. Those are the old schoolers, the big boys, but they'll do very, very well. And we're looking, as I say, at the alts for the super performance, but they will lag initially. Bitcoin could run initially. If it becomes a globalized thing, it will be Bitcoin that does the best first. It will do its 2.5x and the rest will kind of limp along. It'll be the honey badger sucking up all the honey. Leaving nothing behind, sweetness for the others. The others could languish for a bit, then you'll get trickle through and you'll get second stage, and then you could surge again. So this is all good. This is all good for the crypto. It's how it winds up. Every little part of the machine has to reset and wind up, and they have an order and a pecking order to it. So this was a little bit of a head and shoulder as well, where the upside HVF that gave you that blow off that we participated in, a very abrupt alert head, and you got that wedge right shoulder and you're broken. There's still downside targets that haven't been met with that as a neckline, which could bring you lower. So there's still potential to go lower. There is still potential to go lower. I'm kind of ambivalent. I'm not overly committed one way or another. I'm watching, I'm tactically trading, but there is buying being shown as well. So it could stop at any moment, but you could also have second stage, third stage legs. So I still think first selling strike, second selling strike. What did we show you on Twitter? What did we show you on Twitter? We showed you the extension had made its journey. So let's just show you that again. For those of you who need to learn how to use fib projections, We'll drop the time frame to 4 hour. So that is the projection from that head up top here to the low of the spike. See that? And rebound. Very interesting. Nice grind lines there. Pretty standard. And you've got a real hammer bounce at the key level of 3,000. You see that? 3,000. Key round numbers. Bit like the 40 grand for Bitcoin and the 44. Key round numbers, 3 grand over there. So maybe an up and over and then one more selling leg. Maybe the selling leg fails to make a new low. But that's one. That's full unit down. That is equal to that. But it's not necessarily a 61.8. If it was, where's the head and shoulder target for Ethereum? Let's give you an idea of that. The neckline for me is 2,950. It's probably the 3K. I would probably take the 3K. So close to the big numbers. So you want to put in a 3K line on here. You grab it. We do our necklines in blue. Make it super fat so you can see them. And that was your top. So the big goal, guys, is thinking about your next leg. Recognizing that you should be bullish, you should not be getting killed in any selling, and you should not be panic selling out of anything. You should not be oversized. You should have already been concerned about downside from our previous clip. And you should have an idea where these lows should be coming, and then the game will be taking them up. Once these turn, I don't think you will face these levels ever again. It's quite a bold statement, but once these turn. That head and shoulders target is pretty ugly and would take you to 1942, but it's a bit like the 35. The low is 1692, it's kind of 1700s. 1950 is possible. But it could slow down and not be as violent. So just to also show you from a momentum point of view. Momentum on that little first squeezy, that's overperformance personified on that first little squeezy there. Absolutely near vertical. This one off the grind line there, not so vertical. You could have the last one and it could take a while to get there. So you have a 61.8 at 2000. You have a 2054 key level, you have the 2000 key level, and you have this head and shoulder target. A lot of cluster of levels down there. But that would probably require Bitcoin 35 to be made on the next sell-off, which we've already covered in detail. So I'm not predicting that, but that would be a very strong buy signal for me if we got there. The only thing that would negate that being a strong buy signal is if you went there more vertically than this first slap in the face. You see how the gradient is reducing? This could take some time to happen if it was to happen, and I'm not saying it will. It's a possibility if all bearish targets made. So in bull markets, bearish counter trends don't necessarily already make target with high conviction. So I'm conscious of it. I'm not saying it's absolute. My bullish scenarios, I'm confident of targets, and I'm even looking for overperformance because we're in a macro bull. So you recognize the natural inherent bull bias that continues to be justified positively. So that would be an absolute worst case scenario for Ethereum, and it would be an extremely strong buy for me. And the rest of your Ethereum here was at 1690 lows in the funnel. So that's about as low as I'd feel acceptable. 1945. Let's just draw that line on. But I actually think you'll probably not necessarily perform to that. See, 1940. So That would be a strong buy. Very, very strong buy, with the macro bull bias still being there. But it could take quite a while. It wouldn't be that it wouldn't be that gradient. And it will probably be associated with very bearish other news outside of being Ethereum specific or crypto specific. So panic in the markets. That NASDAQ head and shoulder throwing down, a bit of overperformance to that. That's why I showed you these other things. Dollar index starting to get a lot stronger. Don't forget Ethereum's also priced against dollar. Everything you're trading is against dollar. So you're starting to get a dollar rush, panic in markets, in the traditional markets, areas you're not used to looking at. Okay, then it's risk off. They're just getting punished because they deemed volatile and risky. It's not like, oh my God, they shot Vitalik Buterin and gas fees are now $1,000 just for doing basic things. It won't be specific to Ethereum. That would be macro. And under those circumstances, as I say, very strong buy there, but may already have made its low. So somewhere between this box. And we'll be updating in the community as we get new information. Or that box, should I say, from that low to there. Okay, so that's Ethereum. And then 5 grand to 8 and potentially beyond. But don't say 10 necessarily too quickly, because Bitcoin won't necessarily run 100. If everyone's expecting it to be 100 and waiting to pop champagne corks, it's almost certainly going to tease you and have a correction before then. Remember the all-time high, okay? It always will surprise you. The markets will always retain ability to surprise you. Share this video. Click the likes. Grab the mini-series if you have no money. Book a call to maximize in this key event going into probably the bullish. September's were the worst months. I'll show you one chart. I shared it on Twitter some time ago. Every September, 2 Septembers out of 9 weren't down. In a bull environment, 22% of Septembers were up. In a market that on a year-to-year basis is up 73% of the time, year on year. I'm not so sure how quickly it is that I'll find it. Let's see this, see that. Hold on. I'll have a quick look to see if I can find it for you. No, it's going to be one. I've tweeted it out. I'll share it through Twitter. September, bad month. Not to say October is necessarily the very, very best, but it's better than September. But I think this time will be different because we've had a very dull September. But you could still go one more leg down in the September. There's still 9-10 days left. So bear that in mind. And then we get greedy. Get greedy when everyone else is in fear and panicking about the end of the financial system. That's all from us. Thank you for watching. Book a call. Links below. Bye-bye. Double salute you.